Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. I hope you are doing well, staying healthy, enjoying life and must be planning to improve your life. Here we are to do so. Here daily we read a chapter of a novel to develop reading habit to improve our English, including reading, writing, listening, speaking, vocabulary at the same time, enhancing our knowledge. As we know, reading is the best practice to develop all these things, which help us in many ways. And reading could be one of the good hobby to make a change in ourselves, as we have heard from many prominent personality that books change their life, add values, widen their knowledge. We can live other lives by reading a book and get all the experience and learn from their mistake. Why to commit same mistake if we can learn from them and improve our life? So join me in this journey to become best version of ourselves. Before starting, I would love to hear your thought in comment section. Remember to like, share with your loved one to change their life as well, and don't forget to subscribe my channel for daily updates. We daily read the chapter, and if you have pressed the bell icon, you can get the easily notification. So today we are going to read chapter 11. This is a part of novel named Like It Happened Yesterday, which is written by Ravinder Singh. We have already read 10 chapters of this novel. But don't worry, we can read this novel individually. We can read all the chapter individually. There is no connection. You can pick any chapter and read. Even if you want to visit previous video, you can, and you can go through that and you can understand whole chapter which we have already completed. Today we will read this and we will see what is there for us and what we can learn from this chapter. So let's start and see what is there for
11.
us.
Show and tell. One afternoon, during the recess hours, when I returned to the classroom to have a drink of water, I saw a group of boys gathered at the back of the class. Four of them were from my class, two were seniors, and one was a junior who was well known in the school for all the wrong reasons. Together they were standing in a circle and looking at something. Curious to know what they were doing, I walked towards them. As soon as they heard my footsteps, they looked at me and then at each other. Then they suddenly started to hide what they had all been looking at. I noticed them shuffling the pages of what appeared to be a magazine to me. There was loud and hurried whispering, which died down by the time I reached them. Now there was complete silence. This looked unusual. Manoj and Sushil looked at me. The latter's presence assured me that something suspicious was definitely going on there. I didn't wait for long and addressed my question to Sushil. Kya dekh raha? Hey too. What are you looking at? With a smile on my lips, I waited for an interesting answer. अभी कुछ नहीं, सरदार. Ice high time pass कर रहे हैं, nothing much, buddy. We were just bid ing our time. He tried to dismiss my doubt. But as I kept walking towards them, their body language became uncomfortable. Sushil was narrating a non-veg joke. That's all, said someone else from the group. Really? Share it with me also, then, I chuckled. By then I had reached quite close to them. I caught Manoj hiding something under the desk. What are you hiding? Leave, shouted Devinder, who was our senior. He gave me an angry look. But I wasn't going to back off. This is my classroom. Why should I leave? I shot back. Incensed by my counter-argument, Devinder made his way towards me. He stared right into my eyes. I didn't move away, and stared right back. This could result in a serious scuffle. But Sushil intervened. Don't. He is a good friend, he said, stopping Devinder. When everyone had cooled down, Sushil asked Manoj to take that thing out. Manoj gave him a doubtful look. He raised his eyebrows and stared at the faces of the others. Sushil. nodded. Finally, Manoj slipped his hands out from underneath the desk. When I saw what he was holding, I could not believe my eyes. That moment of my life was officially tagged as my introduction to the world of dirty magazines. It was a Hindi magazine. The name on the cover read Manohar Rate. Just below the title, there was a photo of a woman lying on her belly on a cozy looking bed. She wore barely anything. Her bare back was arched and ended in curves, which were the center of attraction in the photo. A translucent, black colored stole ran between her lower back and her toned thighs, and that was the only piece of clothing on her. She had perched her chin on her right hand, with the little finger gently held inside her mouth. She was looking right into the camera with a mysterious smile. Oh my God! I exclaimed, as my mouth fell open. I stared at it, amazed, for more than a minute. Sushi looked at my expression and smiled. It didn't bother me. After some more time, Sushil put his hand on my shoulder. Kya ho gaya bhi? What happened to you? He laughed. The others joined him. The collective laughter distracted me from my reverie on those curves on the cover. And, soon, I remembered that I was in the classroom. I looked at the entrance and swallowed the lump that had formed in my throat. Don't worry, no one will get to know. Enjoy, Sushil said. He still had his hand over my shoulder. The little shyness in me had, by then, vanished. I adjusted my position in the circle to a place from where I could take a better look at the magazine. Damn, she was sexy. Should I flip the page now? Asked Manoj, who was our man on the task. Half of us answered yes, the other half said no. He waited for everyone to say yes, and, in the meantime, went ahead to mischievously run his fingers over that nude back in the picture. Watching him do so, I felt disgusted. But a little later, for some reason, my disgust subsided. After a short while, I too wanted to run my fingers over that bare back. Turn the page, now, shouted someone. No one objected this time, and so Manoj turned the page. Coin laya hai ye. I wanted to find out who had brought the magazine, when my eyes fell on the picture on the next page. A South Indian girl in a tight black blouse yanked us up to the next level of excitement. Everyone sighed. Ah, the woman's small blouse had tiny sleeves and a deep neckline. There were hooks running down the front of the blouse, but only the two lowest hooks had been fastened. The upper part of the blouse had been left unhooked, revealing what the woman was wearing inside. The voluptuousness of her figure was revolting against the constricting piece of cloth. It was as if her body was trying to break away and set itself free. Below her waistline, with her left hand, she had hitched up her skirt over her thighs. Sushil Laya hai, Manoj replied, as he tried to pull the magazine closer to him in order to take a better look. Every page you turn now, she is going to throw away one piece of cloth. I don't know who said that. But that statement put us into so much excitement that we were quickly out of patience and started snatching at the magazine among ourselves. Why are you pulling? All of us shouted at each other, but not a single one of us was willing to let go. The picture of one naked girl had brought out our animal instincts. Abey, Idarkar, give it to me. Oh, come on. Abey, Father Chayegi magazine. Hey, the magazine will tear. We would got ourselves into a chaotic, screaming mess. Soon, Devinder flung into action. He took advantage of his seniority and brought the situation under their control. First, He shouted everyone down. Then, he suggested circulating the magazine among us in the round robin fashion, so that everyone got a fair chance to look at the pictures. We all agreed to the suggestion. But, the very next moment, we got into a quarrel over who should be the first one to avail of that opportunity. Devinder had an answer to that as well. He chose himself for this privilege. The rest of us unhappily allowed him to go ahead. Now you are only seeing the pictures, but read the stories from this magazine also. Must hey? They are fantastic. Sushil advised me, as I awaited my turn. Really? After reading them, you will have to head straight to the bathroom, he chuckled. Unable to understand what he meant, I asked, why would I need to go to the bathroom? A few of the other guys broke into laughter. Abey, bachcha hai ye abhi. Hey, he is still a kid, someone said. Devinder was laughing too, as he handed over the magazine to the person next in queue. I wanted to remind him of his age, and, more importantly, the fact that he was still in school, because he had failed several classes. Haven't you done it, ever? Sushil asked me inquisitively. By then, the magazine had arrived in my hands. I didn't care what Sushil's question meant. I was just excited that it was finally my turn to look at the magazine. But, before I could go through the picture carefully and closely, the peon outside the principal's office started ringing the bell. I cursed him in my head. I was worried that people would walk in any time, and that killed my excitement. I didn't want to rush through the magazine. I didn't want to ruin the pleasure of watching a dark complexioned girl of about 25 years slowly taking off her clothes with every turn of the page. I wanted to savor it, slowly. So I closed it and half heartedly handed it back to Sushil. For the rest of the day, that naked girl danced in my head. When the maths sir drew a triangle, I drew a triangle as well, and, along with it, I also drew the sketch of that girl in the corner of the page. When he was teaching how to apply the rules of trigonometry in order to find out the length of the shadow of the tree, when the height of the tree and the angle of sun rays was given, I was busy color ing her blouse and skirt. I elbowed Sushil, who sat next to me, to show him my creativity. He was busy taking notes. So I elbowed him again. He looked at me. The painter in me looked at him, and, with great pride, pointed out to him my freshly drawn Mona Lisa. He looked at her and smiled. He spent some time examining my artwork, and then did a little touch up himself. He made the cleavage a bit deeper, looked back at me and winked. Perfect. I whispered, admiring his talent and superior knowledge of the subject. The next moment, the two of us broke into quiet laughter. At 4 p.m., when school ended, I approached Sushil to have a private conversation. I wanted to borrow his magazine. I thought I was smart to think of going through it in the privacy of my home. It turned out that I was the last one in the group to have that conversation with Sushil. He had already promised to lend his magazine to everyone for the next few days. He gave me a date which was 8 days later. I had never ever waited that desperately for anything else. Never, ever. That evening, after I came back from school, I lied to my mother that I was not feeling well. It was my excuse for not going to the tuition classes. Mom gripped my hand in her palms and then touched my forehead. She wanted to verify if I had fever. There wasn't any. It's a bad headache, Mom. I might be coming down with something, I said. Have a aspirin after you finish your bread and butter, and then take rest, she advised me concernedly, and put a tablet on my plate along with half a glass of water. Every evening, my parents would go to the Gurudwara to offer their evening prayers. That's when a lot of other people also came to the Gurudwara. It usually took them an hour before they got back. In a while, my brother too left for his tuition classes. I flushed the dustbin down the kitchen wash basin, locked the main door of our house, and headed straight for my bed. I piled up two pillows under my head, after which I grabbed my school bag, which was lying in the other corner of the bed. It was time for me to enjoy Manohar Rate. My happy hour had just begun. I was euphoric about this private entertainment I had planned for myself. It didn't take me long to submerge myself in the world of pleasure. I returned to the page where that dark complexioned girl had made her seductive entry. I zoomed in to take a closer look at her poised body, her tight blouse, and her hitched up skirt. I observed the body parts that were visible. I imagined the ones that were not. For some reason, I was in love with her blouse, maybe because it had little to hide and a lot to reveal. On the top of all this, her naughty smile was driving me crazy. I flipped through the pages with great expectation. I knew what to expect next, yet I wanted to be surprised. On the next page, she had moved into a bathroom. There was a mirror behind her showing off her shapely back. I was already seeing her front. The wash basin behind her had a lot of toiletries. A bathtub, on her right, perfectly filled in the scene. This time, those last two hooks had also fallen open. The blouse hung limply on her body. A pair of black lacy straps ran down her shoulders, revealing a lot of net in front, in between the folds of her open blouse. My body had started reacting to those visuals. I felt different. I felt as if I wanted to disconnect from the rest of the world and enjoy what I was busy doing. I didn't want to be bothered about anything else in that moment. I just focused on that girl. I moved my fingers over her picture and circled her belly button. I wanted to feel her in person. The mere imagination was so much fun. She still hitched her skirt up with her hand, but the posture of her legs had changed this time. Her legs were crossed and her body had tilted sideways. The skirt had slipped further down. A black elastic band peeked from above her waist. It was too sexy to be missed. Each time the camera had aimed at the girl, she had looked straight into it. Her eyes revealed confidence, a notorious one. I imagined that I wasn't only imagining, and that she was actually looking at me, that she was smiling, knowing what was happening to me. I was getting hard, and this differ and kind of feeling was just irresistible. I turned the page. Those black straps had now slipped off her shoulders and were down to her elbows. She had allowed that to happen. The blouse was already on the floor. For the very first time in my life, I was looking at a topless woman. It didn't matter if she was only in the photograph. I rolled around in my bed to change my position. I lay on my stomach, rested my chin on the pillow, and held the magazine in front of my eyes. I pulled the blanket from the edge of the bed, rolled it up, and sandwiched it in between my legs. It was an exceedingly sensual moment for me to observe her vital parts left unclothed. I spent a lot of time just observing the skin and the shape. The next half an hour was full of a few more sensual visuals that aroused erotic feelings within me. As I progressed, I felt as if she was hypnotizing me. I enjoyed her company on every page. By the last page, She had run out of all her clothes. To me, she looked her best then. Her young, poised body was partly submerged in bathtub water. Her right leg loosely hung outside the tub, and a tiny stream of water dripped down her leg onto the floor. I was looking at a fully naked woman, in the most erotic posture, offering me the best possible view of the most important parts of her body. But then, something strange happened with me. Those erotic feelings had turned into some sort of a black hole and were trying to suck me into them. It was difficult to understand what I was feeling at that moment. I found myself in the extremes of pleasure, from where it was hard to come back. I felt as if a lot of anxiety had concentrated somewhere in me, and that I would explode because of it. I was badly in need of giving vent to what I had contained within me. I felt uncomfortable. I wanted to calm down. I knew boys got hard when they experienced erotic feelings. I too had experienced such feelings quite a few times before. But, that day, it was strangely different. I wanted to help myself but didn't know how to deal with the situation. In some sort of nervousness, I slipped my hand into my shorts. It seemed natural for me to do so. Right then, I felt I was going to pee. I tried to control it and run to the bathroom. But my body didn't allow me any time. Before I could even get up from my bed, I felt my body had flushed out something. I pulled out my hand. It wasn't wet. It was sticky. I could not understand what that was. A sense of horror took over me. What has happened to me? Worried, I had started talking to myself. I unzipped my shorts to see what had happened to me. I had absolutely no idea of what that semi liquid substance that had spilled into my clothes might be. Oh God! Unable to make any sense of it, a flood of thoughts crossed my mind. I believed it was a bad disease. I believed that God had punished me for reading that dreadful magazine. I knew I was in deep trouble. I panicked. I ran to the bathroom and cleaned myself. All this while, my heart was begging for forgiveness from God. I won't read it again. Please, please, God. It was a silent, one sided conversation. I wondered if I should tell mom about this. But then I wondered how I would explain it to her. Right then there was a knock on the door. I was terrified beyond measure now. I had to be quick. But quick with what? Was the question. I looked at myself in the mirror. My hands shivered as I tried to clean my shorts. In my state of panic, I could not clean it properly and threw it in the lot of laundry clothes. I came out of the bathroom and ran to open the door. At the last moment, I noticed the magazine on the bed. I changed course and ran again to hide it inside my bag. There was another knock on the door. Oh God! By the time I opened the door, I was breathless. Why did you shut the door? It was my mother. Oh, hum, just like that. Ah, le, pasha le. She offered me the prasad, the offerings from the Gurudwara. Because of what I was involved in till a few minutes ago, taking the prasad with my hands didn't seem like a nice idea to me. So I refused. I will have it a little later. Tera sir thi ho gaya? She asked about my headache, on her way to the TV room. Not yet, I told her, and went back to my bed. I covered myself with the blanket. All this while, I was worried about my health. I had decided to secretly consult a doctor the next day. To overcome my embarrassment of describing the situation to the doctor, I thought of taking Sushil along with me. After all, It was his magazine that had cast a curse over me. I didn't have a comfortable sleep that night. I was deeply disturbed, firstly because of the experiment ends itself, but, secondly, because I could not share it with anyone in my family. I did not even dare to urinate before I went to sleep that night. I was afraid that I would again pass the mysterious fluid that I had a few hours back. Time and again, I would wake up with a start and recall the fearful event of the evening. Fortunately enough, till the time the sun came up, I didn't experience anything more unusual. My morning stint in the bathroom also went fine. After holding it in for a good 12 hours, I had finally peed, and a lot of it. By the time I reached school, I felt I was out of danger. And interestingly, after having a chat with Sushil, I came to know that I didn't need him to take me to a doctor. Sushil himself turned out to be my much needed doctor. That day, I realized that you don't always learn the important lessons of life in the company of decent friends. Some key lessons of life are learned in the company of notorious friends like Sushil. Sushil started with making me comfortable. His statement that I too had experienced the same calmed me down. He explained to me that what I had experienced was one of the signs of a boy reaching puberty. I also learned that girls of our age experienced a similar shock when they witnessed the blood during their first menstrual cycle. I had been quite unaware of all these scary signs of puberty. After half an hour's chat, I was happy to find out that I was normal. Moreover, I became confident that I had stepped into adulthood. Slowly, a hesitant pride made its way within me. Sushil surprised me with his wisdom on this subject. Apart from his gyan, he had another surprise for me. He gave it to me after the last class of the day. It was another magazine.